Right, Ronan McCarthy, how are you? Welcome to Irish Footy Vlogs. You well?
I'm brilliant, thank you. Glad to be here.
Good stuff, good stuff. Now, you're a Wexford fan since the beginning, 2007, I believe, which is that right?
Yeah. I started supporting Wexford Youths, I'd say just before the end of the 2007 season. Before that, to be honest, I wasn't a huge football fan, so this is pretty much what got me dragged in, kicking and screaming into football.
That's interesting. Were you into GAA at all?
No, to be honest, I wasn't even a huge sports fan, which probably something a lot of people don't know about me is that I went to a Wexford Youths match on a whim back around the end of the 2007 season. So I wasn't there for all the matches that year or anything like that. It was purely on a whim because my dad, like most of us, my father got me into it. He invited me to a match many times. Most of the time I said no. And then one day I said yes. And over the next 4 or 5 years, then I started to get involved in volunteering. And now it's more or less my life outside of work.
You're the social media guy, I must add, for the viewers that are watching. When did that start for you?
Yeah, I started getting involved as a volunteer in around 2013, 2014, which was mainly working on the match programs, writing the odd article here and there. And then when 2015 came around, we just had a successful year and we were looking to push on even further than that. I become friends with some people who were more seriously involved and started to ask me to do more. So I became part of the media team then. And then 2016 or 2017, then I became one of the media officers properly. Started doing match commentaries, which is sort of where probably a lot of people know me from, was doing all the match commentaries when you were in the Premier Division. And since then, look, we've branched out into a lot of different things. And nowadays it's myself and Anthony Cooper running the media for the club.
What are the challenges do you find? Because obviously Wexford is a GAA mad county, football and hurling particularly, but football as well. What are the challenges that you find yourself, in terms of trying to get people into the ground, into the gate to watch Wexford play soccer, basically, as they would call it?
There's a lot of different challenges, to be honest. It's a sore subject for everyone, but obviously it is hard to get people in when results haven't been good for several years. It was a lot easier to get 500-600 people in when you're approaching the top of the first division, but that hasn't been the case for a few years now. That's a big obstacle. There's no two ways about it. Wexford is a very interesting county in that it's floated between primary sports many times. When we have a good hurling team, it becomes a hurling county. That hasn't always been the case. I feel like Wexford can be drawn into all different sports. So at the moment, when you're a team on the downslope, you can lose fans to different things. Those would be two big ones. As well as that, it can be a difficult thing. The location of Ferry Carrick being outside the town, it's hard to get walk-ups. But on the other hand, we do get people from all around the county because it's so easy to get off the N11. So yeah, those would be the big three obstacles for the club, I would say.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't think you necessarily need, it's not necessarily us against them, is it? Like, I like GAA myself, but I also like soccer, but I find time to go and watch both, you know what I mean? So I suppose trying to tap into that market, but no matter what you do, it's very difficult to literally bring people in, isn't it? You can't just lift them up and there you go.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great hardcore of people who are just sports people. I'm sure you and I are both like that. In that, like, if we go to Gaelic, we go to hurling. If there's something on, we're happy to go there, and that's true of a lot of people who are involved at the heart of the club as well. They're not, zealots of one particular code, and it's the same when I go through my list of players. There's a lot of players there who float between, Gaelic and soccer, and some people say that's a bad thing, but for the club as a whole, I think it's good that you don't have to be pinning yourself down to one particular code.
Now, obviously, Wexford, we're 13 years in existence, I think, something like that.
Right.
What are your favourite moments so far?
My favourite moment is actually in 2008, the second year we were in. It was the first season that I was following them, consistently for the year. And probably a lot of people have forgotten by now, but it's the year we were in the League Cup final. And the final is best forgotten. It was a great occasion to host Derry, but we were absolutely slaughtered. But definitely favourite footballing memory, because it's the match I was really hooked by soccer, was the semi-final against Cork City away to Turner's Cross. And Cork City in 2008 were a very, very big club indeed. And we came away with a 1-0 win. Massive away following there as well. I got to know a lot of people for the first time at that match that I'm still friends with today. So that would be a big one. And then for me as well, following Wexford Youth Women, there's been fantastic experiences there. A big one for me was actually just last August, going away to Lithuania with Wexford Youth Women for the Women's Champions League group. It's the most embedded I've ever been in any football team, and they really took me in a way I didn't expect, and I got to know a lot about the preparation that goes in and what makes them tick, and just how passionate and dedicated the Wexford Youth Women are. And it was an eye opener. Like, I've been following them for years and I've seen all the success that they've had, but seeing them behind the scenes like that was a massive experience for me.
It's interesting that, because how does the dynamic work between the male team and the female team? Because obviously the female team have been extremely successful. I think actually they're the most successful in terms of trophies, aren't they, club in Ireland? So when it comes to women's football, how does that work? Does it knit together, or do you feel there's a slight divide when it comes to the two? In terms of supporters as well, how does that work? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a work in progress, I'd say.
Yeah.
It's the two clubs started very far apart, and I feel like year by year we're starting to work on that relationship. It's very far from what anyone wants at the moment, but it's improving. The organisation, the women's side, they have a new committee this year, which is blowing me away in terms of the quality of the work and organisation they're doing. It's something the men could learn a lot from, but structurally they're kind of similar. And then in terms of the supporters, there's a hardcore of Wexford FC fans who are following Wexford Youth Women. And then there's, the people outside the Venn diagram who are only supporting one for one reason or another. And it's obviously mutually, for me anyway, it's mutually beneficial to bring those two together, because there's so much Wexford FC would benefit from if they were to follow the example. Who couldn't learn from an example like that? The success is incredible. And Wexford Youth Women would love to have the number of people going to matches, and they could surpass that as well very easily.
Oh, it's great success. So I've asked you about your favourite moments. I have to ask you about your worst moments following Wexford, or maybe worst moment.
The one that stands out for me, the worst moment, was relegation from the Premier. We were in a playoff, a two-legged playoff against Drogheda United. Now, one of my best mates in football is a Drogheda United fan, so I commentated the away leg with him. Yeah. And we went in, my memory is absolutely rubbish, but I think we went in 1-0 up, if I remember correctly. Then we had it overturned then to 2-0 defeat away to Drogheda, in fairly miserable circumstances, on and off the pitch. That was a sickener. That was really hard for everyone to take. I'd struggle to think of anything worse than that, to be honest.
No, yeah, I know the playoffs is actually a tough one, isn't it? Even last year, where Drogheda played Finn Harps, they just about lost. And if when it's that tight and you have to play in the first division for another season, or you get relegated, it can be a tough one to take for clubs as well. It's a difficult one. Yeah, so how do you feel the club been developing since 2007? Do you feel in general you would have liked it to develop a bit more since, or has it gone okay, or what do you think overall?
I think we've had two really dodgy years in 2018 and 2019. I think in no way we really hit the mark. And I genuinely feel, with good reason, that 2020 is going to be different. And there is a clear reason for that, which I do my own video interview series with Wexford FC, and I had a great interview with David Breen, who's the assistant manager, and he gave us a real insight into the difference in the selection process Wexford FC has had this year. Brian O'Sullivan, the manager, and David Breen have had, as opposed to last year, complete control over the players they're recruiting. And as someone who works with the team, the difference is night and day. The players that we signed this year are so much more positive, open, can do. They're coming from such good reputations and just the easiest players to deal with. And that's a really good start. There's no one there who you'd be worried about that are they going to lose commitment, which has been a huge problem for the last 2 years. I think that's been a major problem is over the previous 2 years. I'm not saying about this year, but poor recruitment has been a big problem.
Yeah, some of the signs you made, the likes of Dan Tobin and Conor Crowley, when I seen them at the start of the season, I was surprised because from the outside looking in, obviously Wexford struggled badly. I think the 10 points, was it, or 11 points the season before? And yeah, and when you see players that have to sign for the club, you kind of take notice a little bit, don't you? And to be honest, the start of the season, I think he played, 4 or 5 games? I can't even remember now, it's that long. But maybe, and very competitive in every game, every single game, very competitive, and good signs there as well. So, how would you rate the start?
Yeah, it was such a shame it was cut off when it was. The start was great, definitely. Like there was no more. Well, there was no hammerings to begin with. We never had a problem against Galway. I think Galway fans would agree they were really disappointed with how they got on. It was a good equaliser late on against UCD. I think we felt pretty hard done by there. Yeah, no, we're generally happy. And just to go back to what we were saying before about sort of what's different about this year, the reason we've signed players like Dan Tobin, Conor Crowley, and one player I'm hugely excited about is Kaleem Simon, is that this year when Brian was recruiting, his demands were much higher. There was no compromise about it. You're committing to this much training, and you're going to be there every week, or else you're not signing. We've signed a much higher caliber of player as a result of that.
There's no doubt about that. Like, things are looking up in that way. So I'm looking forward to this 1 to 11 now. We'll start off with manager. Who are you going for as your manager?
Okay, yeah. It's a surprisingly difficult one for me. I guarantee 95 to 99% of Wexford fans would say Sheehan Keegan. And that's for a good reason. I mean, he won our biggest trophy. He took the club from he took the control off Noel O'Connor, who had a couple of poor years, and took us into the Premier Division, a completely amateur club. I know every club say they have the smallest budget, but we actually do. And look, that's nothing to be snipped at. It's a massive achievement. But there's also a reason that I'm not choosing him, and it's to do with, it's my list, right? So I work in the club, and he left a lot of sore feelings in the way he left and went to Galway. There's a completely different vibe, I think, with the way things are going with Brian O'Sullivan. So my choice of manager. People really haven't seen the best of him yet, but I think they really will in 2020. His recruitment this year has just been exceptional. He's an excellent tactical manager. His training is good. He's more of a whole club man and a leader, perhaps, than Shane Keegan was. I don't mean to disrespect Shane Keegan. He's a great guy. But when I worked with him in my position, information and communication was lacking. Not an issue with Brian. So look, Brian is my choice. And yeah, look, it might not be a common one in Wexford, and he hasn't gotten the results that Shane Keegan has yet, at least. But look,
in fairness now, he hasn't really had the opportunity to have the results that I suppose Shane Keegan's had. As you say, last season was so poor, and you couldn't put it down to the management team because they came in after, I think, 3 or 4 matches, didn't they? And as you say, there were a few, or did they? Yeah, something like that. There were a few issues there anyway, and they couldn't really get a squad together. So this season was a season where they could look at it, as you said, explained before, pick the players maybe they wanted to pick. As you say, there's a higher caliber coming in, so he deserves credit for that in itself. And results so far have been like completely different to last season. Like, as you say, like, they're competitive in every match. So like, he just needs to be given time, basically, as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'd say if you're not sure about him yet, if you're a Wexford fan, give it till the end of the season. And
Oh,
look, this is
so-
the test. This is definitely his squad. And when you're there at the training sessions or whatever, you can tell it's his squad, and that's the measure by which to judge him. And I have a very good feeling about it.
yeah. Well, I suppose you can see, judging by you're able to see the sessions and that kind of thing. So it's a different feeling you get from maybe a lot of the fans. Right, number one goalkeeper. Who are we going for?
Goalkeeper, super easy. There's really,
Yeah.
really no debate about that. It's Graham Doyle. I don't think you could really point to anyone else. His record is just crazy. He started his League of Ireland career at, I think it was 22, and played 5 years in a row without missing a single league game. So that was, I think, 151 consecutive league appearances, and there wasn't a bad game there. He was the club captain the entire time as well, and his leadership was phenomenal. It was absolutely key to the 2015 league win. He's a fantastic leader. There was never, there was bad results along the way in 2015. There was
Yeah.
shakes, like any club has. Graham just never. His communication is just fantastic. He never lets the head drop too much. Never lets worry creep in. I was so impressed with Graham, and everyone who I think has ever played with him has. I would have loved to have seen Graham when he was a bit younger.
Brilliant stuff, brilliant stuff. So where are we going formation wise? Are we going to 4-4-2, 4-3-3, or how have you done this?
I've just it's a tough one, but I think I'm going to have to say 4-3-3. And
Right.
yeah, do you want to take us through the formation? There's a
Let's go
particular
right
reason.
back. We'll go right back, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go through it. Right. So right back, there was a bit of back and forth over this one, but I've decided to go with Craig McCabe. Craig joined back in 2011 through the underage side. He's a local, and for me, he was the most solid defensive right back that we ever had. There's a number of other good candidates as well, but they're more attacking minded. The two that would jump out for me are Conor Whittle and Aidan Friel. Conor Whittle, people would probably know from Waterford, and Aidan Friel has been around Longford and Shells since. Both fantastic, attacking minded, real go forward players. But I went for Craig McCabe just because I feel he was the best defensively, and in a 4-3-3, you should have more than enough attacking cover. So Craig McCabe, for me, just about sniffs it ahead of the other two.
So you like your full backs to defend rather than fly up the pitch.
It depends on what they have available here, but I think when we go through the rest of the squad, there's enough attacking players there that we can keep full back.
No bother. So left back, who are we going for?
Yeah, left back was I'm going the same again, a more defensively minded player when there's attacking was available, but it's an easy one. You had to put him in somewhere, and that's Ryan Delaney. He's someone who I spoke with midweek on the Wexford FC page. I mean, the caliber of clubs he's played for since has been nothing short of phenomenal. Easily one of the best players we've ever produced. He's been at Bolton, Wimbledon, Burton Albion when they were in the Championship, and he won the Premier Division with Cork. He had to go in somewhere. Definitely a defensive left back. Same reason as Craig, I'm choosing him. And another player with a really good attitude, pure positive, very can do, nice and calm. There's no doubt he had to go in somewhere. Left back, just as good as anywhere.
Did you see him having that career that he had when he left Wexford, personally?
Well, I never saw him in the flesh actually after he left Wexford. No, I would have seen him on TV a couple of times, maybe, and I saw him on like MNS playing for Cork. That was about it, really.
Yeah. Right, so centre backs.
Centre back. I'll start with the first one. Probably the best centre back we ever had. Probably some people have forgotten he played with us, but Lee Grace. Yeah, of course. He signed just a 3-year deal with Shamrock Rovers. I believe he rejected some good offers from England along the way. Not the biggest centre back, but I think he's probably the most skilled, talented centre back we ever had. Absolutely outstanding, and he's pushed on so much since he left us as well. So yeah, it has to be Lee Grace.
See, another one you could actually tell by watching him play for Wexford that he would push on. Was it obvious to you?
Yeah. Look, he had the makings of a full-time pro from day one. There was never any doubt about that. Same with Ryan Delaney, really. Both in terms of attitude and physicality, look, they were made to be to be proper full-time pros in a way that maybe some other players we had didn't.
Yeah, brilliant. So that's centre back number one. So we're on to number two.
Yeah, centre back number two. Then probably most clubs feel like this, but there are a ton of good candidates for this. I'll give honourable mentions to current system manager David Breen. He was a fantastic centre back. He had a very, very long and successful career in the League of Ireland. Gillian Cantwell, currently at Bray as well, very good centre back. Gary Delaney, currently playing with North End, just down the road, really good. Player I've gone with though is Stephen Last. So you're going to see a lot of players who obviously were with us in 2015. Stephen Last was phenomenal. He followed the exodus down to New Zealand. We lost about 6 of our very best players to a club called Southern United down in New Zealand, and he was a huge.
How did that actually happen? Sorry to cut across.
As far as I know, there was an Irish coach. So Southern United is in Dunedin, and there's an Irish coach there. And look, I think the old money had a lot to do with it, is that they could offer a lot more means than most Irish clubs could. And of course, look, New Zealand's a fantastic place to live, so you can't begrudge a move like that.
Definitely not. So on to midfield. What's the dynamic here? Are we going for an Anchorman or midfielders, or what way are you doing it?
We'll start with the Anchorman, and there's a good few names you could pick from. So Jimmy Cohan is a possibility, of course. He went over to England as well, played for Exeter and Bristol, now with Rochdale. I think I haven't gone for him. Connor Sinnott, going way back to 2007, was a very successful player. Played with Pats and Drogs and Reading before Wexford Youths. The player I've actually gone for is Shane Dunn. He signed for us from Monaghan, sorry, if I remember correctly. Went on to Drogheda and Athlone since then. He's a player who I think he could have gone on much further. Fantastic passing midfielder, great attitude. Probably not the most robust. I didn't go for a warhorse of a fella. We have had plenty of players like that, like Patsy Malone or Craig Wall. Shane Dunn, even with Athlone, I just thought his intelligence on the ball was really something. Really, really good.
Yeah, I think that's a big factor for an anchorman as well. Not necessarily someone who's robust, as you say, but someone who's intelligent and knows their position. So you can guard that position in the field and move the ball quickly and things like that, and cover your back line. And you don't have to be a big tackler. You can just be good at intercepting, that kind of thing. So
sorry to cut across. A player like that I really, really admire is Paul Keegan. Shane Dunn's a bit like that. Paul Keegan's fantastic. Really admire him.
100%. Another player that a lot of people might know at the moment is playing the league similar to that is Craig Bulger, that plays at Shamrock Rovers. He's somebody like that as well. And like you, I kind of like those style of players as well. So, right, our next centre midfield player.
Yeah, so probably the most recent player in the squad, then another centre mid, will be Jack Doherty. He's a player I'm absolutely delighted Wexford had the chance to have. Probably best known for his time with Ipswich Town and Waterford. He's a player who, look, I was so glad we had him at the time we had him as well. He sort of, I feel, fallen out in love with the game a bit when we signed him, and we gave him a lot of space and a lot of a chance to rebuild his confidence, and he moved on to Longford. And look, I was delighted for him because I just felt he was in a very happy place with us, and boy did he perform as well. Like, he just turned it on just like that. He's not the tallest player, but my God, physically he is built as well, in stunning shape for a player who's playing part-time. Fantastic. And obviously, look, he wouldn't have gone to a club like Ipswich as an attacking midfielder unless he had unbelievable skill as well. Big time.
So our third midfielder
then, actually, he's my all-time Wexford Youths favourite player. He's a winger who also went on that trip to Southern United, Andy Mulligan. He signed for us from Bows under-19s, and I feel like he might have only signed in 2015, in that first division year. He didn't stay very long, signed for us for a couple of months last year, but he was injured, so he never really got going. Unbelievable. He's an out-and-out winger, so look, maybe he doesn't fit the formation exactly. He's the most skillful winger we ever had. No two ways about it. Pure pace. You know what they say. He had the lime on his boots the whole time. We haven't had
Chalk in his
that, but
boots. Yeah. That's
perfect. Yeah,
it.
yeah. I love Danny Mulligan, superstar player, absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant. So he gets in anyway. So we'll go left wing.
Well, I was going 4-3-3, so we'll go three. So look,
see what you're doing. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I'm cheating a bit, but hey. So look, I'm building the 4-3-3. The three attackers are being built around the other really obvious inclusion, Danny Furlong. Getting scoring records with a club like Wexford Youths is absolutely incredible. I think he scored 31 in that 2015 season. 31 or 30.
Like that. It was definitely 30 something anyway, for sure. It was over 29, we'll say. We'll go there. Yeah. Unreal.
Absolutely. Yeah, unreal. He was with Wexford for a really, really long time. I was actually in school with him. And he had to go on a real journey to get where he was. I remember very well when he first joined. I think it was 2008, he broke through to the senior team. He had to go on a real journey to get where he was. Like, he wasn't always top of the pecking order or even that appreciated. He had to play behind a lot of players, and I really admired his determination to stick with it until he got to 27, 26, 25-ish, to finally break through and be the player he turned out to be. Really, really easy decision. Danny Furlong has to go in there.
What kind of, yeah, exactly, no choice. What kind of striker would you say he was overall? Was he a goal poacher, or did he have more to his game than that? Could he run the channels? Was he a target man? How would you describe him overall?
I think he's an out-and-out goal poacher. He's just in the right place at the right time. Every time, his work rate has never been absolutely, his strongest point. Don't think he really runs the channels either. But he finishes. When he gets the ball anywhere near goal, especially when he's on like that, like he was in 2015. His finishing is incredible. That's his strength.
Well, those strikers, I always say, are crucial, because you see games sometimes and you hear people going, if only we had a striker, someone who can put the ball in the net 6 yards out, or scrambles. It can happen 3 or 4 times a game, and if you have someone who can put the ball in the net, it looks easy, but it's huge, isn't it? It really makes a huge difference to any team.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, look, that's something Danny just managed to really do well for 2 or 3 years. And yeah, I was really glad that he had those few years, because he had all that potential in him. And I was glad the Wexford Youths had that strong year so that he could show it with his home club as well. Look, it was just really great for him.
Like, he's the top scorer of the club of all time, and probably will be for another while. So here we go for next. Another striker, is it?
So yeah, we've 2 attacking players. They can play on the wing or they can play striker, but they're both going to be hard-working lads. And I'll go back a bit. I'll go back to 2009 to pick my next one, and that's Gary Sheehan. Probably not a lot of people remember him. He was previously of Limerick, but he was a great support player to Danny Furlong before he had made his best. Because Gary Sheehan was a good finisher. He actually scored against Wolves in a friendly, the friendly that Kevin Doyle organised when he had signed. So that's probably his most high-profile goal. Previously played for Limerick. Did pitch in with a good few goals himself, but more than anything, he was a really hard worker. Ran and ran and ran. And yeah, just a player I really admired. He was probably the first, apart from Conor Sinnott, the first high-profile player not from Wexford that we ever signed.
Right. Okay. So he was kind of more of a support striker, you would say, kind of who played off a striker type player.
He could do either, really, but when Danny played, generally Danny had to be the point of the attack, and Gary Sheehan was a bit more versatile, so he could play in support, and he did it very well, because a lot of people don't remember, but we did have a couple of decent years before 2015 as well. We're getting well into mid-table of First Division, and Gary Sheehan was crucial to that.
Right. So your final player, who are we going for?
Final player then is Hayden Keenan. Probably not a huge amount of people outside of Wexford know him. He didn't really have much of a League of Ireland career outside of Wexford. He's a complete nugget of a man. Absolutely threw himself about. What he really combined well with Danny Furlong was, look, Danny is not a target man. He's not going to win the ball in the air. Roxy will do that every single time. Never afraid of a physical battle, and he was more of an assist man than a goal scorer himself. He scored a few himself, mostly in the air. But look, his relationship with Danny in football was absolutely sublime. Because look, Hayden Keenan had all the physicality that Danny lacked, basically.
Yeah, you need all those little elements to make the team, don't you, to be fair?
Yeah. Look, that's what really worked out for us in 2015, was that we got all the elements together. Look, this team is probably 75% 2015, for good reason. And that, look, it's something Shane Keegan really managed. He managed to get these players who had this symbiotic relationship, and they went on to do great things.
Any more honourable mentions in the attacking roles, would you say?
Well, one name which would have been hugely controversial that I was really tempted to put in was Kaleem Simon. I would have loved to have put the current 2020 squad in. They haven't really had the chance to prove themselves quite yet, but I have huge hopes for Kaleem. I think he never really got a fair shake at Bowes. I think he was probably put in a bit too early there, and too much was expected of him. I'm hoping, much like we did with Jack, we can give him a bit more time and a bit of space to grow and develop and get the right atmosphere around him to become, the kind of superstar that I really think he is. Other honourable mentions, only some super hipster ones. Gavin Doyle. Yeah, I'll throw out some names that some other Wexford nerds will remember. Gavin Doyle was had a really good year, 2008, 2009. I guess a less hipster one is Paul Spot Murphy, who's most known from North End in Wexford. Who was it? I think Connor English, actually, one of our strikers, named him as the best player he ever played with.
Really?
And look, Paul, the thing about Paul Murphy is that he's a very complete player. His passing, he's a striker. He's a goal scorer, but his passing and his vision to set up things as well is really excellent. So look, Paul Murphy deserves an honourable mention as well.
Brilliant. Right, Roland, thanks very much. Really enjoyed that. So that was your Wexford 1 to 11. And it'd be interesting to see if any Wexford fans would have any different opinions. But that was brilliant. Fair play to you. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll get in trouble for some of them. It's my list.